Hey everyone, Brittney Carmichael here, founder of Shine School and the Shine from the Inside Oracle, and in today's video, I'm sharing my 5 favorite tarot decks. So I've been practicing tarot for almost a decade, and it started back in 2012 when I was intuitively guided to go see a psychic after a near-death experience. I had no idea what the heck I was getting myself into, but I've always kind of liked Teen Witch and The Craft and all the horoscope stuff, so it wasn't totally off base, but it wasn't like I was brought up around it. I was raised in a Christian household, and so it wasn't something that we had Bibles on our table, not tarot decks. So for me, it was kind of new, it was kind of weird, kind of woo-woo, but I went with it. And when I went to go see the psychic after a near-death experience, she told me, honey, you have the gift. You need to buy yourself some tarot cards and start practicing. And I was like, I don't really know what you mean, but I do know what you mean. So there was a part of me that totally resonated with what she said, but of course there was another part of my brain, my ego, my fear that was like, what? What are we doing? Don't sleep with the tower and the devil together? Like, what does that even mean? So she definitely had me freaked out, but what I have found in working with tarot for almost a decade now is that there's nothing scary about tarot. It is just truth. And if you're afraid of truth, then we probably won't be friends, because I'm a Libra and a lot of people hire me as their coach because I have the courage to say the truth and speak it with love and do it in a way that makes you feel good even though you know what you're doing feels bad. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to bring up my favorite decks and share with you why I use them and how I use them and how they came into my life. Okay, so the first tarot deck I ever bought myself was when I went to go see Serena at the Labyrinth, and she said, buy yourself some cards. So I took her serious and I bought a deck right then and there, and that is the Morgan-Greer Tarot. I keep it in this little pouch. You know, you always want to have your cards protected, and most of them come in a box, so you can start with that. But I really wanted to take it to the next level and give them their own cute little pouch. So the Morgan-Greer Tarot was the first tarot deck that I ever picked up, and honestly, it was the stars that got me. I was like, oh, that's so cute. And I thought the imagery was inviting, colorful. It didn't feel scary. It didn't feel creepy. I wasn't like, oh God, like the devil, like what's happening? So this was the first deck I ever picked up. I started practicing by sleeping with 1 card a night under my pillow so that I could subconsciously pick up the meanings behind each one. And really quick, if you don't know anything about tarot, which I'm sure you do, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video, there are 78 cards in a tarot deck, and each one of the cards represents an aspect, an emotion, or an experience that our soul goes through here on this physical planet and our journey of evolution and spiritual enlightenment. So all the cards represent different aspects of and feelings that we'll go through. So for me, I didn't know that when I got started, so I was just trying to pick something that was pretty and cute. So I started with the Morgan-Greer Tarot. I use this deck every single day. I pull a card for myself in the morning from this deck, and then if I feel called to another deck, which I have about 20 of them in my possession currently, I will sometimes pull a card from those. Lately, I have been playing with the Oracle cards from Alana Fairchild, and they are all about Isis and the goddess Isis. So I'm kind of like in a phase right now for that, but every single day, I never skip using my Morgan-Greer. Now, the next deck I want to show you is called the Crystal Unicorn Tarot deck from my friend Pamela Chen. Now, speaking of pretty decks, this is one of my favorite decks because it incorporates crystals, it incorporates unicorns, and she has kept true to the symbolism of all the tarot cards. So in tarot, symbolism is a huge part of understanding the meanings of the messages, and a lot of the times I'll see new age modern tarot decks coming out with all kinds of crazy ass art that literally has nothing to do with the original meanings of the cards. So it's really hard for me to connect with cards that don't have that original symbolism. So Pamela Chen did a great job at maintaining that symbolism to keep the meanings true, and she made it really fun and beautiful with all these cute unicorns, and crystals. So if you're looking for a magical, fun, traditional deck that is based off the Rider-Waite system, then this is the deck for you. So one of my favorite artists is Danielle Noel, and she's done a wonderful job at creating many different tarot decks, including doing artwork for other oracle deck creators. But my favorite one that she's done is the Moonchild Tarot. This is an 81 card deck, so it's a little bit bigger than a traditional tarot, and she's included some extra cards that have meaning to her that are important to bring up in the spiritual practice. So there's something magical and special about this deck that really just embodies that feminine aspect and the mystery of the moon. I'm all about like goddess power, moon power right now, following Isis and the moon cycles. So for me, this deck is such a beautiful representation of facing your darkness. You know, that's really what tarot is all about, is getting clear, truth, honesty, to see there are aspects and dark areas of our life that we have to pay attention to, and not to cut them off or disassociate from them, but to accept them. And that is when we find that holistic integration of our darkness and our light. We are made of both, and we have to accept both. And what I think I love so much about the messages from this Moonchild Tarot deck is that it is all about embracing all aspects of ourselves. So, oh gosh, the artwork. I feel like I'm just trying to do you guys a reading because I'm like, oh, it just feels so good. Oh, look, 8 of Wands, so rapid changes, things are moving fast, action. So I absolutely love this deck. The artwork is so stunning. She's done a great job at using collage for creating the artwork. Now, the symbolism isn't quite on point with the original symbolism of the tarot, but it does embark and embody the meanings that are necessary. Like, for example, the Justice card. We've got the scales of the Libra, we've got the sword, so there are aspects from the symbolism that are still found within the artwork of this deck. So love the Moonchild. If you are a woman, a lady of the moon, then this is the deck for you. Okay, so these last 2 decks that I'm gonna show you are decks that I purchased for my husband because he had seen me for years pulling cards and really getting into it, professionally reading tarot for clients. And he was kind of curious, like, what is that? I kind of want to pull a card for myself. And so I would have him pull cards from my deck, but I wanted to give him his own deck. And so what I started with originally was the Osho Zen Tarot. Now, Osho is one of our favorite philosophers, gurus, spiritual teacher, whatever you want to call him, and his wisdom, his messages are beyond incredible. Hello, Noodles. And so when I learned that Osho had his own tarot deck, I knew this was going to be the perfect deck for Chris. So what I love so much about this deck is the guidebook in this particular deck is so much different than a traditional tarot deck. So what is cool is that, yes, they do go through all the different cards and all the different, you know, like suits and things like that, but the messages and the meanings and the wisdom that comes along with it are amazing. So the wisdom inside the Osho Zen Tarot deck is beyond incredible. This does follow the traditional suit of tarot. The symbolism is, you know, it's like his spin on what the tarot represented, and I just feel like he's done a wonderful job in really getting across the messages that need to be heard. You know, the truth is hard sometimes, especially when it invokes pain of change. And what we're here to do on this planet is to constantly evolve. That means change. And so I just think that this deck is deep, it's powerful. I wouldn't say it's for newbies, but it was still worthy of note and one of my favorites. So I thought I would show you guys the Osho Zen Tarot. Now, last but certainly not least of my bazillion tarot decks is the Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot. Aleister Crowley was a very famous magician, and he has deep insight into how tarot and astrology and the Kabbalah all blend together to make this perfect system. So what I love so much about his deck is that he really has a deep esoteric knowledge and understanding of what each of these cards mean. He ties in the zodiac, he ties in the tree of life, he ties in all the different aspects that the tarot represents. So sometimes when you get like the Morgan-Greer or the Rider-Waite, as much as I love them, they don't have the full embodiment of all the deep metaphysical symbolism in here. And so what I love about Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot is that every single aspect of astrology, of the Kabbalah, of the Tree of Life, of Tarot, of even Christianity and some of the basis that they got for that book, he pulls and ties all of that in together to show you the real truth behind the stars, behind the scenes. So this deck is definitely not for beginners. It does not really come with a good guidebook. It has a tiny little guidebook with very, very basic, simple messages in this particular guidebook. What I have found, I mean, it's not bad, but you know, it's not as in-depth as some of the websites that I've found. So there's an esoteric meanings website that has all the meanings of the Thoth Tarot that I actually go and reference for all that wisdom. So not just like, oh, here's the Ace of Swords, new ideas and breakthroughs. Like, thanks for the key words, but there's actually like, what decan of the astrology and zodiac does it fall on? Where does it fall in the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life? And what does that represent? So I think that this deck is extremely in-depth. I pull a card every single morning from my Morgan-Greer original, and then what I like to do is I go find the meanings of the Thoth Tarot and compare it to what I already intuitively know so that I can keep expanding my knowledge and learning more about all the different aspects and nuances of each card and what they represent. So there you have it. There's my top 5 favorite tarot decks that I use on a regular basis. If you have any questions about using tarot, please leave them in the comments below. Check out my other videos and blogs for more resources and tips on how to use tarot in your spiritual practice. And if you have a favorite tarot deck, I want to hear, leave it in the comments below, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.